Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, should I push my lower back into the bench when doing dumbbell presses for my chest? No, you should not. Good question. No, that's actually a question that I think more people should be asking. Um, there's a lot of personal trainers out there that advise clients to push their lumbar region, which is your lower back, into the bench while performing any pressing movement, whether it be with dumbbells or barbells. However, I would advise you not to do this, okay? We all have a natural curve in our lumbar region, okay? And it's a little S curve, right? Now, that curve is very important because when you're doing anything that's lying down, as far as pressing movements, flying movements, you actually want to leave that curve alone. You don't want to compress it into the bench. The reason why is that when you push that curve into the bench, you're actually putting more pressure on your spinal erectors as you're going through the movement, whether it's a pressing movement or a flying movement, okay? The only time I advise people to compress their lower backs towards the floor is when they're doing an abdominal exercise, like a reverse crunch, okay, or a bicycle. In that case, I do recommend doing that because that will allow you to engage your transverse and your rectus abdominals more effectively. But when you're doing pressing movements or flying movements or any movements that involve weights in the gym, I would advise you not to do that, okay? I know a lot of people think, well, it's going to create proper core contraction. And yeah, to some degree it will, but you have to remember, you're trying to focus on, in a case of a chest press, working your pectoralis major and minor, right? You're not trying to focus on your core. So you can still keep your core contracted without pushing your lower back into the bench, okay? So I would advise you not to do that. And just to reiterate, when you're doing abdominal work like reverse crunches, bicycles, those are times where I would advise people to push the lower back, especially in the L4, L5 region, towards the floor, okay? And that will give you proper core contraction and allow you to engage more into the transverse and rectus abdominals more efficiently. But that's really the only time I'd recommend you do that. All right, next question. Nick, should I do my cheat meals before or after my check-ins with you on Friday mornings? Always do your check-ins. For most of my American clients who send me their check-ins on Mondays and Thursdays, and my Canadian clients who send me their check-ins on Tuesdays and Fridays, you always want to send me your weigh-in as far away from your cheat meal as possible, okay? So if you're sending me a weigh-in on Friday morning, ideally you want to have that cheat meal on Friday night or Saturday night, okay? Reason why is if you have a cheat meal, let's say your check-in is, in this person's case, Friday morning. So you have a cheat meal on Thursday night. That cheat meal is actually going to affect the number on the scale the next day, right? Especially if you're following a really clean diet. The cleaner your diet is, the more sensitive you become to excess carbohydrates, excess sodium, okay? So your body is going to retain more fluid, which we don't want when we're doing a weigh-in. Right? So you want to get the most accurate weigh-in. Always do your cheat meal. I recommend people do their cheat meal the day of their weigh-in. So if they send me their weigh-in at 7 o'clock in the morning, have your cheat meal later on that day or at night. Okay, preferably at night. Okay, now I've talked about that in the past, why I recommend people have their cheat meal as the last meal of the day, as opposed to at brunch or at lunch, because once you have that, whether it's say waffles or burger and fries, once you have that little bit of junk food in you, whether it's salty or whether it's sugar, you're going to start craving it for the rest of the day, right? So if you have it as your last meal of the day, you just go to bed, you forget about it, you get back on the diet the next day. That's not in stone, but that's what I recommend people, okay? But what is in stone is that if you are going to do a cheat meal, try your best to have your cheat meal, whether you're working with me or not. If you're doing weekly weigh-ins just for yourself, just to see what your weight's doing, my recommendation is make sure that that cheat meal is far away from that weigh-in. So perfect time to do it. If you're doing it Friday morning, Friday night is when you do your cheat meal, because then you get a whole other week or a few days if you're doing bi-weekly check-ins with your trainer before you have to get on that scale. Okay, and that'll give you the most accurate number. So reiterate that one more time. Always make sure you do your weigh-in before your cheat meal, okay? And like I said, keep them separated. So if you do your check-ins with me on a Thursday morning, do your cheat meal on a Thursday night. If you do your check-in with me on a Friday morning, do your cheat meal on a Friday night. And then you get a whole week before your next weigh-in. right? Or if you're doing a bi-weekly weigh-in, you get a few days. So that should allow your body to go back down, rebalance, get rid of that extra sodium, and you won't retain that fluid. You'll get a more accurate number on the scale. Okay. And that works whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight. Okay. Because if you're trying to gain weight and the scale goes up 3 or 4 pounds because of a cheat meal, well, that's not accurate either, right? So you want to make sure you're gaining quality weight. So that's why I always recommend keep that cheat meal far away from the weigh-in, have it always after the weigh-in. Okay. Okay. Nick, I know you say the carnivore diet isn't good to follow, but I haven't felt bloated or hungry since I started eating meat only 3 weeks ago. Do you think it's okay for me to follow this diet for a few more weeks and then slowly start to incorporate other foods again? Okay, so I never said the carnivore diet is bad. Actually, if you go back to my last two Q&As, I'm getting a lot of questions about the carnivore diet right now. I've never said it's a bad diet to follow. I just said that it's not a sustainable diet to follow. Okay. What I don't like about the carnivore diet is that you're taking out essential nutrients from vegetables, right? You're taking out essential nutrients that you would get from certain lean protein sources. Foods like oatmeal, grains, right? Brown rice, quinoa, yams. These are all foods that are not on the carnivore diet that, in my opinion, are essential for optimal performance, not just on a health perspective, but also as an overall performance component in the gym. Okay. So I'm not a fan of diets that restrict too many nutrients from other food groups. Okay. So I never said it's a bad diet. It's just a diet that I don't think is sustainable or realistic to follow for life. Now, the reason why a lot of people who do follow the carnivore diet, they notice that they're never hungry is because it's almost like a ketosis diet. If you're having a lot of red meat, guess what? You're having a lot of fat. Fat keeps you feeling fuller for a longer period of time. You'll get the same effect if you have avocados, omega-3 eggs, and peanut butter. You'll get the exact same effect. And those foods will provide you much more nutrients than you'll get from just eating ribeye all day, from just red meat, where you're only getting some nutrients. Okay. So this is why I don't advise people to follow diets like the carnivore diet for a long period of time. Can you run it for a few weeks? Sure, why not? But again, why? For what reason, right? So I don't think it's a bad diet to follow. Now, if you're noticing that you are feeling less bloated and that you're feeling like you have more energy and you're not as hungry, keep doing it. You want to keep going for a few more weeks, a few more months, do it. It's your body. The only true way, and I've said this before, the only true way to find out if a diet is working for you is if you go and get your blood work done. Okay. So if you're on a diet plan for 6 months and you're like, I feel great, I look great, but what's going on with my internal self? What's going on with my levels, right? What's my hemoglobin levels looking at? What's my red blood cell count looking at, right? What's my vitamin D? If I'm deficient in vitamin D. So all these things you can find out through blood work, right? So you might have a zinc deficiency. So this is why I tell people, even if you're eating a junk food only diet, if your blood work comes back and it's great, I can't argue with that. But we do know that when you cut out essential nutrients, the body doesn't like that. Okay. So we do know that. So statistically speaking, if you start avoiding and taking out essential nutrients from other food groups, and you're doing that for a long period of time, you might run into some problems. Okay. So this is why I don't avoid doing these fad diets. Okay. To me, a good diet is going to, and I've said this time and time again, a good diet is going to contain lots of lean proteins, good complex carbohydrates, and healthy fat sources. Okay. Not taking out one macronutrient like keto diet, taking out all the carbs, right? Or going on a no fat, low fat diet, taking down all the fats. You want to make sure, or even going on those crazy high protein diets. Someone sent me a diet plan the other day and they were having 500 grams of protein a day. I'm like, you're insane. You're 130 pounds. What are you doing having 500 grams of protein a day? You know what that does to your kidneys? So you have to be so careful when you're programming a nutritional plan, right? And this is why I tell people stay away from these fad diets because 9 times out of 10, they cause more harm than good. Okay. So again, you want to go on carnivore diet for the rest of your life? I'm not going to stop you. But I can tell you that the only true way to find out if this nutritional plan is working for you long term is after I usually recommend people take anywhere from 4 to 6 months on a plan and then go get blood work done and see what's going on with your body. Then you'll truly know, hey, am I missing out on some essential nutrients or is this diet plan working for me? And if it is, I won't tell you to stop. All right. Next question. Okay. Nick, I'm a 36-year-old woman and I feel like my arms are getting bigger from lifting weights. Should I lower the weights that I'm lifting or maybe just train my arms every second week instead of once a week? If you truly feel that your arms are getting bigger from lifting weights as a woman, I hate to tell you this, but it's most likely body fat that's on your arms that you need to lose. It's not the muscle. Because if you're training properly and you're using that rep scheme that I always advise people between the 10 to 15 rep scheme, and you're training with the utmost amount of intensity, minimal rest periods, the muscle that you're adding on should be lean, dense muscle. It shouldn't be big, blocky muscle. Okay. So if you're feeling like your arms are looking big or thick, it's most likely because you have a layer of fat covering that solid, lean, dense muscle. And this thing, people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. So what do? Well, you continue to train weights. If anything, you try to increase your weights because the more muscle mass you have, the easier it is to burn body fat. You don't lower your weights because then you're going to lose muscle. Okay, so you don't want to do that. I also wouldn't advise training your arms once every 14 days because in my opinion, that's not nearly enough. Okay, so you're going to lose muscle. And if you lose muscle, it's going to be easier to put on body fat. So don't lower the weights. Don't train with less frequency. If anything, continue to increase the weights. Keep your reps between 10 to 15 reps, minimal rest period, as I said, train them once a week like every other muscle group. This is where diet and cardio come into play. Okay, so you have to make sure that you are keeping your diet dialed in, not just a few days of the week, okay, not just one day on, 2 days off, or a few meals here and there, every day. And if you're someone who has a hard time losing body fat, you're going to have to do cardio on a regular basis, okay, as in daily or at least 3 to 4 times a week. If you're someone like me who has a very fast metabolism, you can get away with doing less cardio, okay? So this is where, again, it comes down to working with a coach or trainer that can customize a program specifically for you, okay, and tailor it towards your specific needs and the results you want to achieve. But whenever I've had a woman tell me that they feel their arms are getting too big, it's not the muscle, it's a layer of fat surrounding the muscle. So in a sense, yes, the muscle will grow, but if there's a layer of fat covering it, yeah, guess what? The arm's going to look bigger. But do you want to really stop training weights, or do you want to take down the frequency or take down the weights and get that muscle small again? All you're going to do is you're going to have flab hanging here. Okay. It's not like your arm's just going to get instantly smaller. It will shrink a little bit, but you'll have a flabby arm. You won't have a solid arm. I know a lot of women, especially a lot of women I work with, they hate that jiggle back there. Okay. So we want to avoid what we call bingo arms, right? Or the bat wings. So how do we do that? Well, heavy lifting is going to do that. Number one, diet dialed in, number two. And if you're someone who struggles to lose body fat, cardio is number three. If all those three components are in check, your arms will not be big. Okay. So I can guarantee you that one of those three is missing if your arms are getting big. Okay. Because that shouldn't happen, especially for women who are training as naturals, not enhanced, not using anabolic steroids. Because the reality is women have too much estrogen in their systems naturally to get big. And the ones that you see that do get big are usually using anabolic steroids, or they're just genetic freaks. And there's not many genetic freaks out there. So if you're not a genetic freak and you're not using steroids, there's a good chance that your arms should not be getting big unless your diet and your cardio are not checked in with your weight training. All right, next question. Nick, I sometimes feel really dizzy in the gym and need to sit down for a few minutes at times. Occasionally, it's so bad that I feel I'm going to pass out. I don't like to eat before I work out, but I was wondering if there's anything you would recommend I drink or supplement with to help stop this from happening. This sounds like a fairly serious issue. Okay, so what I'd recommend first doing before going to get any drinks or supplementing with any vitamins or nutrients is go see your doctor, get your blood pressure taken, and just to make sure you get a blood test done as well. What you want to test to find out is maybe you're prone to diabetes if you have a family history of it, right? If you suffer from low blood pressure, you don't have to go to a doctor for that. You can just go to your local drugstore, put your arm in the cuff, and see if you have low blood pressure. Okay, because this is very serious and it's something that you don't want to play around with. Okay, so that would be the first thing. I would definitely go get my blood pressure taken and then go get some blood work done, because then you'll find out that if you are diabetic, right? Okay, maybe you're borderline diabetic, so that you might mean you have to change up your diet a little bit, right? Or maybe you are diabetic and now it's time that you go on some insulin. So this is why I tell people, when you're starting to feel like this, don't prolong it. Go in, get checked. Okay, go see your doctor, get your blood pressure taken. So let's say that you don't have low blood pressure. It sounds like you might have low blood pressure. Let's say you don't. And let's say you're not diabetic. So what can you do? Well, one thing is some people find if they have something, to eat before they train, it does help. Now, if you mentioned you don't like to eat before you work out, well, it can be something really small. Okay, it doesn't have to be a big, huge meal. It could be a third of a cup of oats. That's not very much. Could be half a banana, right? Could be a protein shake. Just something in your body, right? So that could be you. I mean, you didn't say what time of day you train at, but if you're training like late afternoon or in the early evening, and you've only had one meal all day, your blood sugar levels might be very low, right? So it might actually be having something to eat before you train. It might not have to be right before you train. If you're someone who finds that you get nauseous before you train, try to have a meal like an hour and a half before you train. Okay, let your body digest that meal. My recommendation is to have pre-workout complex carbohydrate, lean protein source. Try to avoid fats, okay, because fats take longer to digest. So if you're someone who does get nauseous before a workout, the complex carbohydrates, a very lean protein source, very quick and easy to digest, that tends to work very well, okay? So those are my recommendations right there. As far as supplements, well, in my opinion, there's not really any supplements on the market that's going to stop you from feeling faint, but you definitely want to stay hydrated. Basic water will do. Make sure you're drinking water throughout the day. This could be a dehydration issue as well. If you're not properly hydrated before the workout, that could lead to you feeling faint, dizzy, right? So you want to make sure you're hydrated. If you're having a hard time drinking a lot of water, I've recommended this product before. It's called Extend. You can get it at most supplement stores. They sell it online as well. The supplement source here in Canada are Canadian Supplements. They both sell it. Those are two websites. And it's just a BCA product. So that way you're at least staying hydrated a little bit more efficiently because you do have that extra sodium from the BCA powder, okay? So that's another option. But again, I can't stress this enough. If you are feeling faint or you do feel dizzy or you're going to feel like you're going to pass out in the gym, it's crucial that you go and take your blood pressure and then go get some blood work done as well in addition, okay? Talk to your doctor about this. The last thing you want to do is pass out in the gym when you're lifting a heavy weight, okay? You got a weight that falls on you. You're asking for more than just a pass out here, okay? That could lead to severe injuries. So it's crucial that you go get this checked out right away and don't just rely on a supplement or a pre-workout drink or a pre-workout meal because it's pretty serious, okay? Because it could be other things. And you know what? An easy trip to the doctor, get some blood work done, get your blood pressure taken, doesn't take long. You just have to do your due diligence and make sure that you're taking care of your health. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is a pre-workout nutrition question. Okay, so Nick, what do you recommend and not recommend eating before a workout? Okay, so I kind of just touched on this in the last question, but I'll be quick on this one. So for pre-workout nutrition, I'll say it again, is you really want to stick with something that's a complex carbohydrate source, oatmeal, Ezekiel bread, cream of rice, a sweet potato, yams, brown rice. These all work really well, okay? And a lean protein source, right? So by lean protein source, I mean something like a chicken breast, turkey breast, whey isolate protein powder, egg whites. These are all excellent lean protein sources. White fish, cod, tilapia, excellent. What I would recommend avoiding, besides the obvious junk food like McDonald's or muffins and pastries, you obviously don't want to do those foods for the reason why they're usually loaded with sugar or simple carbohydrates. So they'll give you that fast acting energy, but then you drop off very quickly. So you want to avoid stuff like that. That should go without saying, though. You should know not to be having those foods pre-workout. But a lot of people make the mistake of even incorporating healthy fats pre-workout, which I advise people not to do. So healthy fats would be under the label omega-3 eggs, natural peanut butter, avocado, olive oil. These are all foods I recommend to save after your workout. Or if you work out later on in the day or in the early evening, have it earlier in the morning so you have a few hours to let that food digest. As I said it in the last question, fats take longer for the body to digest. So the last thing you want to be doing is training through an intense workout and have your body digesting through all this food. It doesn't feel good. It makes a lot of people queasy, nauseous. It slows them down. So you want something that's going to give you good, stable, long-term energy. So that's where the complex carbohydrates come into play, and something that is quick and easily digestible. So that's where the lean proteins come into play. Okay, so my recommendation, it's just my recommendation from working with people for the past 20 plus years in the gym, avoid healthy fats pre-workout. Obviously avoid trans fats and saturated fats too, but avoid fats in general, okay? Pre-workout. Save them for after the workout or front load them at the beginning of the day if you train towards the end of the day, okay? Because I've worked with people in the past where they'll have something like eggs pre-workout and they're in the bathroom throwing it up. Or they'll have a peanut butter shake, and again, they're feeling really slow and sluggish. And it's because their body's digesting those fats. Okay, so that's my recommendation when it comes to pre-workout nutrition. The foods I listed, there's plenty of other foods out there, but those are the ones that come to mind. And again, as long as it's a complex carbohydrate and a lean protein, you should be fine. If you do have a slower metabolism, though, my recommendation is try to space that meal out 45 minutes to 90 minutes before you train. And that should be sufficient and give you enough time to digest that food. Okay. Again, if you're someone who has a faster metabolism, you could probably have that food half an hour, 20 minutes before you train. There's plenty of times I'll have a meal at my gym 5 minutes before I go train legs, and I'm fine. So it depends on how fast your metabolism is. Okay. Nick, I just started lifting weights after a few months break, and my knees are bothering me during my leg workouts. Is there anything I can do to make the pain in my knees go away? I can't even train legs at this point because it's too painful in my knees. Super common. Okay, so what happens is when you stop training with weights, two things that happen. Your body's ability to create synovial fluid is not as efficient. Your body's ability to create glycogen is not as efficient. Why? Well, our body only really needs to build synovial fluid and glycogen if we're creating resistance. So now what's happened is after taking a few months off, your body is not producing glycogen and synovial fluid at the same rate that it once was when you were training on a regular basis. This is why a lot of people, when they come to the gym for the first few weeks, even months, they're so sore, not just in their muscle bellies, but in their joints in total. Their elbows are sore, their rotator cuffs are sore, their hips are sore, and their knees are sore, okay? So this is what's happening. So now that you're back training again, it's important to get that synovial fluid flowing through your joints again. For those that don't know, synovial fluid, the best analogy I can give, it's like WD-40, right? If you have a squeaky door, you spray some WD-40 on that squeaky door, door doesn't squeak anymore. So same thing, we need that synovial fluid for our joints. Okay, so one thing I recommend to fast track the synovial fluid flowing through your joints, in addition to training on a daily basis, would be to include some dynamic stretching and static stretching into your workout program, okay? So this could be so simple as something like a runner stretch. You could do partner PNF stretching, perpetual neuromuscular function stretching with a partner. This could be just moving in a light jog before you train on the treadmill, a speed walk, just something to get the blood flowing and that synovial fluid flowing through your joints, okay? The longer that you're back in the gym, you'll notice that that pain starts to go away. Unless you're someone who suffers from, osteoarthritis, or you've had like reconstructive knee surgery, there should be no reason for you to have that joint pain, okay? If you have something like maybe patellofemoral syndrome, that's also can cause a lot of pain, and it's actually very common for a lot of people. However, in my experience, even people who suffer from patellofemoral syndrome, when they're in the gym and they're training in a systematic approach to their workouts, what I mean by that is if you're taking legs, for example, you don't walk into the gym and start squatting 315. You warm up, right? If that means maybe you do 3 or 4 sets of walking lunges, no weights, just to warm up your hip flexors, your hip abductors, your meniscus, and your patella, right? And then get into the squat rack. Or if that means warming up with squats, but doing like crazy 20, 25 reps, very high reps to again get that synovial fluid flowing. Or you could get on the treadmill and do a 5-10 minute speed walk, right? Throw in some dynamic stretching pre-workout, static stretching post-workout. If you do all this and you do it on a regular basis, as in every time you train your legs, you'll notice that that knee pain starts to subside, especially if you don't have a history of knee pain, right? If this is just coming because all of a sudden you've taken some time off the gym and you're like, I don't know what's going on, I've never had knee pain, it's most likely due to a lack of synovial fluid in the joint. So it's something to be overly concerned about, but you do need to address it. And the best way to address it, dynamic stretching pre-workout, static stretching post-workout, incorporate a systematic approach to your workout routine. So like I said, don't just go into the squat rack and start squatting 315. Don't just go into leg press and start lifting heavy, super heavy weight, pressing it. That's terrible for your joints. Okay. You also notice that the older you get, the more warm up you need. Okay. The reason why for this is because the older you are, the more mileage you have on your body. So your joints might need a little bit longer to warm up. I've talked about this in the past. Now that I'm older, instead of doing my typical 5 sets for an exercise, I'll usually do 6 sets because I'll usually take 2 warm-up sets for an exercise. And my joints feel great, okay? So again, if you want to last long in this game, you have to train smart, okay? You can't just train hard. I always tell clients you want to train smarter, not harder. If we can get the same results with the least amount of work, let's do that, okay? So train smart. Do what I say when it comes to the dynamic stretching pre-workout, the static stretching post-workout, systematic approach when you put together a workout routine, regardless if you're training your legs, shoulders, chest, back, bis, and tris. It needs to be a systematic approach. You need to listen to your body and make sure that you're properly getting your body lubricated and warmed up by releasing that synovial fluid and glycogen throughout the muscles, tendons, and joints. All right. Okay. Nick, is it better to hire an online trainer or a personal trainer to work with in person? The online option is much cheaper, but I was just wondering if it's as good as working with a trainer in person. I think it really depends on the trainer. Okay. Because I mean, I'll tell you, I've seen some in-house trainers, so trainers that you work with in person, that in my opinion, it's a waste of money. All they do is they stand there, they count reps, they're not correcting form, they're not correcting technique, they're spending like a good portion of the workouts on their own phone while the client is doing a set. I've seen this numerous times. Other things I've seen with trainers, in-house trainers, they kind of make up the workout as they go. They just take equipment that's available to them, right? If it's a busy time in the gym, they just say, oh, we're just going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And it's just like, you'll see them go from a squat to a bench press to a row, and then they're going to a shoulder press, and they're back to a fly. The workout doesn't make sense. Okay. So, and this is from someone who I like to say that I am a professional in this industry. I've been working in this industry for 20 years. So I do have an idea of what a workout program should look like. Okay. And I can tell when someone is just kind of winging it. Okay. And that's understandable, especially for someone who is new to the gym and doesn't really understand how to put together a program. But for someone who is a personal trainer, he or she should know how to put together a properly structured workout program. Now, if you're in a gym that's busy, yeah, you might not be able to follow the exact routine that you had planned for your client, but you should be able to find alternative exercises for that muscle group that you're trying to work. Like you might not be able to do a cable fly because the cables are in use. Well, then do a dumbbell fly. You don't replace it with a bent over barbell row. That's working your back. So you have to make sure that the person you're working with understands the human body and knows basic anatomy and physiology. Hell, they shouldn't even know basic. They should know advanced anatomy and physiology, right? Okay, so you would think that in-house personal training would be more effective, and in many cases it is. But with that said, I know a lot of great trainers, and I'm going to include myself in this list, who do online training, and I feel it's just as effective, especially for people who don't need that accountability to go to the gym on their own. Most of my clients who train with me online, they don't need that accountability. They're fine. They can go to the gym on their own. What they want, though, is someone who can put together a program that they can follow and they can execute in the gym and then change up that program, right? They also work with me so they can have someone that designs a nutritional plan and, again, change up that nutritional plan on a weekly basis based on the results they're achieving or not achieving, how they're feeling, right? Their energy levels. Are they sleeping well? Are they not sleeping well, right? Is their strength going up? Is their strength going down? So that's why working with a very experienced and knowledgeable online coach can make a big difference. Those people don't need the trainer with them in the gym, okay? And then I have clients who do want to have that person in the gym with them to hold them accountable. You know, a lot of people I work with in-house, they know what to do, but they also know they won't do it. And that's fine. They won't do it on their own. So that's why they make a meeting with me. They paid for that session, so they're going to show up. They take it serious like any other meeting in their day. And because they paid for it, there's more accountability there not to miss it. So there's that component too. So you really have to figure out what type of personality you are. Are you someone who is motivated to go to the gym on your own, but says, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing, but if I have an online coach that can hold me accountable and give me a program to follow and execute on my own, I feel confident with that. Or if you're someone that says, you know what, I hate going to the gym. I don't want to deal with figuring out what to do. If I'm in a busy gym, I don't know what alternative exercise to do, then I would recommend working with a trainer in-house, in person. But again, this comes down to the person you're working with, okay? So don't just assume because you're working with someone in person versus online that you're getting a better service. There are a lot of credible and excellent coaches that do online only. And the reason why they do online only or online in addition to in-house is because their in-house roster is so busy, so full, they don't have enough hours in their day to see everyone in person. Or in my case, I work with a lot of clients who live in the US. So I live in Vancouver, so I can't train them in person, but they work with me because they want to work with someone who is experienced and who is knowledgeable and can troubleshoot when something goes wrong. Hey, Nick, I'm not losing any weight and I'm on a weight loss program. What's going on? Oh, your carbs are too high. Oh, you know what? We need to up your cardio, or we need to throw in some circuit training, right? And that comes from experience. It honestly, in my case, it doesn't come from reading a textbook. It comes from experience of working with people and troubleshooting. Say, well, this worked for this person. So let me see if it's going to work for you, but I'm going to have to customize a little bit because obviously you're different than this person. But because of that experience of seeing what happened, well, I did this a few years ago with this person, or some of my clients I've worked with for years, and they'll come back to work with me online for contests, or they're getting ready for a wedding or a special event, anything, a photo shoot. I'll say, you know, we did this 3 years ago. So let's try this. It's not working. Okay, we're going to have to revamp it because your body's changed. So again, it's not necessarily is online training better than in-house training. It depends on what works for you as an individual, okay, and the trainer that you're working with, okay? So don't just think that because you're working with someone in person versus online, you're getting a better service. Not necessarily, especially if that service that you're getting is not a professional service. As I mentioned, numerous trainers I've watched over the years spend half their time playing on their phone while people are doing exercises, spend half their time talking about their weekend. Okay. So if you have a trainer like that, dump that trainer. You're paying for that. Okay. You want to pay for someone who's going to take your physique and your health to the next level, not someone who's going to tell you how their weekend was, how drunk they got, or they want to learn about your weekend, how drunk you got. They want to talk about hockey, music, all that. No, there's a time and place for that. But in the gym, if you want serious results, work with someone that can take you to that next level. So whether that's in person or online, you just make sure you hire a professional that can take you there. Okay. All right. Last question. Is that, oh, sorry. Yeah, last question. Nick, do you recommend any water cutting supplements to help to drop water weight? I have a function to attend in 2 weeks and we'll be wearing a strapless dress. I've been training hard, but just want to make sure I'm not holding on to any water on this day as I'll most likely be on my period. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I strongly advise people not to take diuretics unless they're advised to do so by their doctor. Okay. And as far as the over-the-counter water cutters and the diuretics that are sold over the counter, those are garbage. They don't do anything. So they really don't. Like dandelion root, water tights, they don't do anything. In my experience, working with competitors for shows, both enhanced and natural, diuretics, in my opinion, are not necessary. When I first, and I've talked about this in the past, when I first started competing, I actually did use diuretics, and I always found that they made me cramp. I felt like crap on them. And after the show, I put on water like crazy. So I stopped using them. And I'll tell you what, the only thing I noticed was I felt better post-show and I was just as dry. I didn't need them. So when it comes to water manipulation, you don't need to start cutting your water drastically. If anything, and you talk to anyone I've worked with over the years for whether it's bikini, bodybuilding, physique, most people will tell you, not everyone, but most people, because again, it depends on the individual, will tell you that I actually give my competitors more water the week leading into a show, not less, because I want their body to be relaxed. So the more water I give them, the more water they flush out. Okay. If you don't drink a lot of water, guess what? Your body's going to hold on to water. So you want to do the complete opposite. You want to drink more water. Now, if you have an event, let's say on a Saturday, my recommendation is start drinking, your case, at least 2 liters of water a day. And leading up to that, by Friday morning, start to take that down to 1 liter a day. And then by Saturday, just sip on water. I promise you, if you do that, you're not going to retain any water. Now, even if you're on your period, yes, you're going to retain additional fluid, but this will help take down that water retention. I promise you it works. I've had women I've worked with who just so happened to get their period on the day of the show, like the worst timing. But we follow a protocol and say, you know what, let's start just chugging water Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then by Friday, let's cut that water in half. And by Saturday, sip on it as necessary. It works across the board. Okay, so don't cut your water too early, and really don't cut your water drastically. As I said, go from 2 liters to 1 liter the day before, and then to sip on it as necessary on the day of. That should be more than enough. Okay. again, I wouldn't waste money on the natural diuretics. I've never seen those work for anyone. I know people go, oh, they work wonders. They really don't. It's just garbage. You're wasting your money. And as far as the pharmaceutical diuretics, things like aldactone and diazide, those are very dangerous. And I would advise you not to take them unless you have been prescribed to take them from a doctor for other reasons. But I've seen some people have some really bad side effects from taking diuretics like that, myself included. So you don't want to play around with diuretics. Very dangerous to take. Be smart and just do, as I say, when it comes to cutting your water, don't cut it drastically. Load at the beginning of the week, taper it down towards the end of the week, sip on it the day of as necessary. Simple. Finally, I will say this though, when it comes to one thing I didn't mention, and if you want to make sure that you're not retaining too much fluid, my recommendation, if your event is on a Saturday, let's say the Thursday and Friday leading into that event, cut your carbohydrates in half. So if you're someone who has 150 carbs per day, cut that down to 75, because don't forget, carbohydrates will hold water. So if you start cutting your carbs and increasing your fats, because fats and protein don't hold on to water. So it's almost like you're going to go into a keto diet for 2 days. That will help you drop water weight as well. Okay. So that's a great way to go. If you're not too sure how to do this, you can always work with me. I do offer 1 week, I call them 1 week contest preps, but I also do it for people doing like photo shoots or weddings or anything where they're going to be either wearing a strapless dress, or if they're going to be wearing fewer clothes or doing something where there's going to be a lot of photos. I work with people for a last week prep to get ready for that. Okay, so that's a service I do provide. If you'd like more information on that, you can DM me on my Instagram, fitcosgrove_, or you can email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. And I'm more than happy to set you up with that. Okay. All right. I think that there was one more question. Yeah. I thought that was the last question, but there was one more question. Okay. Nick, how much sleep do you think is necessary in order to get better results in the gym? I'm currently getting close to 9, but I've heard bodybuilders say 10 to 12 is ideal to seriously pack on size. Okay. But who realistically has 10 to 12 hours a day to sleep? You have to remember, a lot of these bodybuilders, they have sponsorships, right? Whether from supplement companies. So they're getting paid to do this, right? So they're getting paid to eat, sleep, and train. But if you're the average Joe that's not getting paid to eat, sleep, and train, you need to work, right? So I remember when I was competing, I was actually getting my business going at the time, and I was working easily 16 hours a day, sometimes more. So my sleep suffered because of that. That probably took a toll on my results, because I probably could have got better results if I slept more, but it wasn't realistic for me to sleep 10 to 12 hours. Hell, I'd be lucky if I even got 6 hours. Okay. So what I find over the years is sleep is more of an individual thing, right? There's some people that feel better on 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and there's some people that feel better on 7 to 8 hours of sleep. My personal opinion is you want to find that sweet spot between 6 and 8 hours. Okay. So in my case, it's usually, if on a good night, 7 hours. If most nights, it's 5 to 6, and I seem to be fine on that. If I get fewer than 5, I feel like crap. But if I get more than 8, which I don't think I've ever gotten more than 8, but if I did get more than 8, I think I would actually feel more lethargic. Okay, because there's such a thing as too much sleep as well. Okay, so that sweet spot, what I find works for most people, is between that 6 to 8 hour. Because you have to remember, how much of that sleep, is good quality sleep, right? How much are you actually in REM sleep? Okay, so sleep is important, absolutely. But when people are telling me, oh, you need 10 to 12 hours of sleep to grow, that might be true to an extent, but at the same time, who realistically has time to sleep 10 to 12 hours a day? Okay, most people don't. Okay, most people will tell you they're lucky if they can even get 7 to 8. Factor in, if you have kids, you're lucky if you get 5, right? Especially if they're young kids. So what my recommendation is like I said, keep that sleep between 6 to 8 hours, but also make sure, if you are someone who can't get in a full 8 hours or 7 or even 6 hours of sleep, make sure you are supplementing really well with vitamins, nutrients. So you don't want to get sick, right? You don't want to get run down, because if you're not getting enough sleep, there's a chance that your immune system is going to be somewhat compromised. So you're more susceptible to get sick, more susceptible to get injured in the gym. So you want to make sure you're supplementing really well with proper vitamins, nutrients, vitamin C, vitamin D, omega-3s, vitamin E, vitamin B, zinc, right? These are all vitamins that I usually recommend. A good protein source, whey isolate on top of that, and following a really good clean diet that's dialed in, because that will help in addition to the lack of sleep that you may be getting. Okay. So it's crucial that you implement a good nutritional plan on top of a good supplement protocol. If you are someone who, like me, cannot get 7, 8 hours a night of sleep, okay? I just don't have enough time in my day. So following a good supplement protocol and a good nutritional plan can make all the difference. So again, my recommendation is if you can, try to get between 6 to 8 hours per night. Okay. The less distractions, the better. You've heard this before. Shut down screen time at least an hour before you go to bed. If you can, try not to eat too close to bedtime. Usually for me, I cut all food about an hour before I go to sleep. I cut screen time about an hour before I go to sleep. That really helps me go into a really deep sleep as soon as I hit the pillow. That works for me. It works for a lot of people I work with as well. So try that out and, try your best to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Make sure your supplement protocol and your nutritional plan are dialed in and you're trained on a regular basis. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, June 24th. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, supplement protocol, or training program, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. And as a reminder to our in-house clients here in Vancouver, British Columbia, both gyms, including downtown Vancouver and Burnaby, are open regular hours this Canada Day long weekend. Okay. So we're in regular hours. All classes are still on. If you have a private session, partner session, and you need to cancel it or change it, make sure you email Mia. Okay. Or if you want to book in an extra workout, email Mia and let her know. We'll send you our schedules and we can get you in for a few extra workouts over the long weekend. Thank you all for watching this week's Q&A. Thank you for supporting both my in-house and online coaching business. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all next week. Bye for now.